Hey, Kate here. Today I want to talk to you about seeds. Yeah, seeds. Seems like not a very big important topic, right? A few weeks ago when the virus chaos was really seeming to beginning to hit where I live, and the rumor was, they're going to close their schools, and then they did close their schools. I thought, wait a minute. They're really knocking down the size of crowds. What happens to my farmer's market? Many years ago, I used to have a pretty big garden and I grew all kinds of great stuff. Then life got busy. I got busy with the books that I'm writing, and I really just didn't want to put as much effort into a garden. And then I had a light bulb moment. Like, wait a minute, there are more than 50 people at the farmer's market. Where am I going to get the plants that I do want to grow? Because the last few years, I've gotten them from the farmer's market. I don't have to start them. I just have to plant them and weed a little bit and then harvest. And it became very clear it wasn't going to happen this year. So how do I start my own seeds again? I really had gotten rid of all of my supplies. I don't even have my grow light set up. I just wasn't going to use it, right? So I got rid of it. Wish I didn't, but I did. So I took my handy shovel. Here it is, beginning whatever of March, and headed out with pots that I had saved, even though we had to argue a little bit, thinking that I was never going to use them again. And we took the shovel and went to a prime spot. Now, if you are not a farm person, you might not like this, but I went to the manure pile and we dug down deep underneath it to get to the really good, black, rich dirt. And my grandson, took his little scoop and scooped and filled all of my pots, and I brought him inside. Now I need seeds. So I did have quite a bit of seeds, but the thing was, most of them were left over from when I started my own plants. So as far as seed life goes, they're probably pushing the geriatric stage. I thought, now what am I going to do? Tomatoes need to be started. If I knew I needed to start tomatoes, they should have started a few weeks ago. I thought, well, what do seeds need to sprout? They need a lot of moisture. So I took a paper plate and a paper towel and I wet it down, and I picked out 2 different seed packets of tomatoes, one for eating, one for canning. And I split it down the middle and put some on each side. And it was like I was trying to figure out which one's gonna, which one has life and which one doesn't have life. So put another paper towel, wet that down, and I stuck it in a Ziploc bag. Yeah, stuck it in there. Put it on my incubator because that's warm. And I waited. Seriously, these seeds are 7 years old. That's old for seeds. I thought, Lord, what's the worst that can happen? None of them sprout? I did order some heirloom seeds from Baker Seed Company. I'm like, but I just didn't want to wait for them. Let me see what I can do with these. And it was amazing. Seriously. About 5 days later, I open up the Ziploc bag, just take a peek, right? And thinking, how much longer do I have to wait? Are they good? Are they not good? And I was amazed. Seriously, over half of the seeds now had a root system. At least some of them were almost an inch long, the root system that it had. And some of them you could just see where it was breaking through. I thought, wow. And I was like, Lord, this is awesome. So I only had 10 pots, but now I've got all of these seeds. So I planted every single seed, every one of them that showed any sign of life, I put in the ground, put in the pots. And I probably have 40 tomato plants in those 10 pots. Right, they can't stay there, but that's, to me, was amazing. And I was like, wow, Lord. And I began to think about dried up seeds. And I asked God, what dried up seed have you planted in me that I think is dead, that just needs the water of your word to continually soak in it for it to sprout forth and bring life? I think we all have a seed that God's planted in us that we think it's too long, too old, too this, I can't do it, I didn't do it, and it's just too late. But if you're breathing, it's not too late. It's not too late. The seeds that God plants in us are never just for us. They're always to bring Him glory and to show others about Him. But what's really important is the soil that these seeds are sitting in. In Joel 1:17, it says, the seeds die in parched ground. So if the soil of my heart is parched, it's not watered, it doesn't have the nutrients. Like we dug down deep and got some really great soil to plant these tomato plants in. And if I'm not digging deep in the Word of God, seeking His truth and His life, I'm not going to have the condition of my heart that is right to sprout the seeds that He's planted within me. In Matthew 13, Jesus talks about the parable of the guy who's sowing seeds, and some of them fell in rocky soil. Some of them, the birds came and ate, or briars grew up. So we have to be very careful about what we let in our heart that will keep the seeds from growing, from sprouting, from coming forth and showing His glory. So if you're thinking that it's too late, let me just tell you something cool about God and His timing versus your timing. Probably 15 years ago, I had this brilliant idea that, oh my goodness, I'm going to write a book. Oh, it was for my 40th birthday. I was like, I'm going to write a book and it's going to be done by the time I'm 40. I even knew what I wanted to call it. I didn't have a clue on how to write a book. I didn't have a clue how any of it worked. So to me, the dream died. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to be part of a book, and I've been part of 5 best-selling books, and it's amazing. So the end of January, I was praying about an opportunity that came, and I really felt very strongly that I was to write a book. This was the title, and it needed to be done by this date. First reaction was sheer panic, okay, because nobody writes a book in 6 weeks, especially not one that you haven't started or have notes on, nothing, right? But this is God. And the title that He brought back to life was the very first book that I wanted to write. Now, I'm sure it looks so unbelievably different than it would have when I was 40, struggling through trying to figure out how to do all this. But the seed that God has planted in you, the Word tells us He knows the desires of your heart. But we have to trust in His timing. And it's His Word and His life that breathes life into the seeds that He plants within us. Nobody can grow the seeds within you on your own. It doesn't happen. If I had done nothing with those seeds and just sprinkled them in the ground without the saturation, without the heat, I don't think they wouldn't have grown, because when I was putting them in, I'm like, Lord, this one looks dead. But I put them in anyway and allowed that to break the dryness, because when we plant the seeds in a parched ground, they die. If you plant seeds and never water the soil, they die. Jesus also said that, if a kernel of wheat just falls to the ground and dies, it's dead. But if it falls to the ground and it sprouts up, it brings forth so many more. So in this crazy time that we live in, I said to my dad the other day, it's like, wow, we are living in uncharted territory. And he looked at me and said, no, we're not. He's like, I remember World War II. I remember the rations. I remember what the people in Europe was going through. And I thought, wow. I mean, we've read it in history books, but we didn't live through this. So how do we respond to this life that we have? And I will tell you, the only way to respond is through here. Because the enemy wants to sow seeds of fear and worry in us. That's what he wants to bring forth. That's what he wants to sprout and take control of us. But the word says that he has not given us a spirit of fear. He's not. That's not him. And may the peace that passes all understanding guard your heart and your mind. But it also doesn't mean that we just sit back here and do nothing and go, oh, God's got this, I do nothing. God's not a vending machine. He wants action from us. He wants action in how we interact with people on the internet, how we call friends we haven't seen in a while. If we bring someone to mind, contact them and say, what are you doing? How you doing? We are called to be his representatives. He places the seeds within us. And it's our job to make sure that they're nurtured, that they're watered, that the soil they've been planted in is good, and we don't let the enemy come and snatch it away from us. So my tomato plants are doing awesome. So I think I'm going to be able to have tomatoes for the whole neighborhood. Probably not the whole neighborhood, but at least there'll be enough. And I think I'm just amazed by that, because I almost threw the packets away, because on the bottom it said packed for 2013. Who knew? So don't let the seed die in you. Don't let the seed that God has planted in you die. We are called for such a time as this. So plant your seeds, water them and nourish them with the power of the Word of God. And when the enemy comes in to try to steal your joy or plant some doubt or freak you out because, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Know that God knows the end from the beginning. Will our life ever be the same after this? I don't know. That's our answer in this house. I don't know. But we can come out of this with a stronger foundation in Jesus Christ, with fresh seeds that have blossomed, that roots have gone deep, that we can flourish in this. Doesn't mean it has to be the same as it was, but he is the same. He never changes and he never leaves us. God bless you. And I pray that you would take time today to allow him to feed into you, to allow him to feed into the soil of your heart, and let him love on you. And may you feel his peace that passes all understanding, and may it guard your hearts and your mind today.